Hi, I'm Tiffany. Welcome to Towering TBR. It's that time again where I get to play my monthly TBR game to help me narrow down what I'd like to read in the following month. I've been playing this game for the whole year. There is a playlist if you'd like to check it out. If you haven't seen my October game, I will link it in the cards and in the description below. Go check that out because I'm about to spoil the results. Last month, I picked B1, which was a one-word title. For that, I read Wayward, so I've checked that off. I also picked 071, which was a title with 5 or more words. For that, I read The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor. Check. I also drew G49, which is a mystery, and for that, I read The Little Stranger. And lastly, I picked 066, a classic sci-fi, and for that, I read The Midwich Cuckoos by John Wyndham. So yay! I've got my first bingo. For this, I get to buy a brand new book. I'm debating between two options, and I'd love to hear your input. Earlier this year, I read Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah and absolutely loved it. One of my favorites. And so I want to buy it. I want to support him, and that's great. The only thing is, I'm not planning to reread it anytime soon, so do I need to buy it brand new? The other option is if you saw my September wrap-up, which I'll link again up in the cards and in the description below, you'll have seen that I absolutely fell in love with Ursula K. Le Guin's writing, and I read The Left Hand of Darkness, which is the 4th in the Hainish cycle. You don't have to read them in order, but I found a bind-up of the first 3 and really would like to get that as a new book as well. So help me pick. Should I get the bind-up, which I haven't read yet, or Chain Gang All-Stars, which is a book I have read and know I love? Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. So before I get on to the roles, I am planning 2 buddy reads this month, so I would like to talk about that. The first is A Kind of Spark by Elle McNichol. I am buddy reading this with Chattie over at The Mad Chatter. This is a middle grade book focused on a neurodivergent kid who is interested in learning about the witch trials. The other book I'm buddy reading is Eating to Extinction by Dan Saladino. I am buddy reading this with Audrey over at Audrey Approved. This is all about foods that are rare and going extinct because basically farming conglomerations, I think. I don't know. I'll let you know after I read the book. The other book I know I'm putting on my TBR is, I mentioned that I really loved Ursula K. Le Guin. In that video, several people suggested that I pick up The Lathe of Heaven. So I have got this. It's very slim, so I'm hoping I can get to it very quickly. And yeah, if I can't squeeze these into prompts, they will be added on top. Now to the rolls. Roll 1. G50. A translated book. All right, let me go look at my options. Okay, I have 2 really good options. The first is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This is translated from the French. This is a dystopian book. I've heard a lot of people rave about it, but I don't know much other than it's dystopian and there are women living underground in cages and they don't know how they got there. The other is Kim Jeong, born 1982. I believe this is translated from the Korean. I've heard several people say that this is really good. Yeah, I can't really decide. I think I'm leaning towards this one. I think I'm going to pick Kim Jeong, born 1982. Roll number 2. I-26. And that is a top-rated book. For me, that's going to be a book that has higher than a 4.5 rating on Goodreads. Let me go check my options. Well, that kind of makes it easy. A Kind of Spark has higher than a 4.5 rating, and I was going to read it anyway, so we're adding this to my TBR. Roll 3. I-21, which is a repeat author, which means I need to pick a book from an author I have already read from. Okay, I'm embarrassed how long that took me, especially because the answer was right here all along. I'm going to be picking The Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin. As I stated earlier, I read The Left Hand of Darkness and absolutely loved it. So yeah, I feel a little bit dumb, but at least I figured it out while I was still filming. So this is going on the TBR officially. All right, we have one last roll, and then I will talk about my Nonfiction November pile of possibilities. G56, an Audrey winner or finalist. Okay, after looking at the list, I've narrowed it down to 3. The first will be Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. This is a classic science fiction that I'm really excited about. I do not own it, but I do have the audiobook. I also have Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. This is supposed to be a really good, gritty, kind of like revenge novel, I think, about these 2 dads teaming up to get justice for their murdered sons. It sounds really good, and I'm in the mood for something kind of fast-paced. And the other one is Too Much Is Not Enough by Andrew Rannells. He is really big in the Broadway scene. He was in the play The Book of Mormon and is just really interesting, and I want to learn more. And I'm pretty sure he narrates his own audiobook, which I always find really special. You know what? This is nonfiction. I'm going to go ahead and pick this. Too Much Is Not Enough by Andrew Rannells. All right. I've got the start of a really good TBR. As a refresher, Kim Ji-young, A Kind of Spark, The Lathe of Heaven, and Too Much Is Not Enough. Additionally, I'm adding Eating to Extinction on my TBR as well. And now I will show you my pile of possibilities of the nonfiction options so that I can participate in Nonfiction November. If you've never heard of Nonfiction November, it is a readathon hosted by Olive over at A Book Olive. I will link her down below. She has been doing this for several years. The point is basically to read more nonfiction than you normally do. So if you don't read nonfiction, just read one. And I'm a person who does read nonfiction though, so I'm hoping to get at least 4 options. I've already got 2, so that's pretty good. Let me show you what I've got. Okay, my first option is Against Techno-Ableism by Ashley Shue. This focuses on learning from disabled people about what they really need and how we can change the infrastructure of society to make it more accessible for everyone. This is one of my highly anticipated books. I'm very excited about it. However, it does not have an audiobook. And if you're new here, I have migraines. I often cannot read with my eyes. And so reading with my eyes just makes it more challenging. However, it's pretty slim, just about 200 pages. So I might add this. I have How the Other Half Eats by Priya Fielding Singh. This focuses on 4 families in the United States and how their socioeconomic level affects their relationship with food and looks at food inequality. I think this might be paired really well with the Eating to Extinction. I have Belonging by Nora Krug. This is a graphic memoir all about her looking into her history of her relatives and their participation in Germany with the Nazis and World War II. I also have The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. I haven't read John Green in ages, but this is a collection of essays that I think talks about a multitude of different subjects, and some of them are known to be a little bit lighter, more pop culture things. I thought that this is a good option since a lot of these books are quite heavy. But if you've read it, let me know what you thought about it. Speaking of heavy, When Crack Was King by Donovan X. Ramsey. This focuses on the Reagan era of war on drugs and how that disproportionately affected people of color. And I think we get to follow 4 people whose lives were affected by crack cocaine. This is Wonder Drug, The Secret History of Thalidomide in America and Its Hidden Victims. This was a drug prescribed in the 60s as a sedative but when pregnant women took it, it caused a number of birth defects. This is her look into the FDA basically banning it in the United States, but also what happened in countries where it was allowed to continue for much longer. Free. This is the author's memoir growing up in Albania under the USSR, and when that kind of fell apart and they moved from socialism to a free market society and what unique problems that caused. This sounds really interesting. I don't know anything about Albania. Cultish by Amanda Montell. This is all about the language that is used to get people to get into cults and how to other people who are not in the cult. I've always found cults fascinating, and I think that this sounds really interesting. Disability Pride by Ben Matlin. This is all about the Americans with Disability Act, which was passed in the 1990s, and what activists are focusing on now, and what different basically wins that there have been with disability visibility. This looks really good, and I'm really hoping to get this one in November. I have two more that I do not own. The first is An Immense World by Ed Yong. This looks really good, and it just recently won the BookTube Nonfiction Prize. Yeah, it's all about how different animals perceive the world, what different senses they have. It just sounds really good. And the other that is on my list is Sure, I'll Join Your Cult by Maria Bamford. She is a comedian, and this is her memoir about show business, mental health, and cults. I have so many options. Definitely help me narrow it down. This is way too ambitious. Tell me, are you participating in Nonfiction November or any other readathons? If not, what are you planning on reading in November? Let's have a chat down in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.